Hi and welcome to Classic MGB. Now the winter's on us, so I thought it was about time to get underneath the car properly with the ramp and see how the underseal that I put on a couple of years ago is doing. Now, I've had a kind of change of heart about the underseal. Last time I put Waxoyl on, which is gloopy, mucky stuff. I'm still going to do that in the wheel arches because I reckon that's where the most pounding from chips and stones and all that kind of stuff comes from. But what I'm going to do underneath the car is take all the surface rust off and then put a product called Lanoguard on, because I've heard really good things about Lanoguard. It's environmentally friendly, but more of that later. So let's get to the wheel arches right away, get the wheels off, get all the waste and loose underseal off, and then start applying some Waxoyl. So with the wheel off, let's have a look underneath and see just how good this is. Actually, it's really not too bad at all. There's bit of surface rust on the suspension, which I'm going to tackle with Lanoguard, but actually just a little bit where the underseal has come off. So what I'm going to do now is get some wire brushes on my drill and just make sure all of this is nice and secure. And I'm actually really impressed with the way this Waxoyl has held up, but I'm just going to tidy this little area up here. I don't know if you could see that, but you could perhaps with the GoPro. Now I'm going to use an electric wire brush, so I'm going to put some goggles on. So I don't really want bits of underseal and rust coming out. So let's get my drill and just start working. So I'm now going to have a bit of that seems to be done. That all looks nice, clean, bare metal. So now I'm just going to have a really good look underneath here, just to make sure that all the underseal's holding. And do you know what? It is. That is really good news. So actually all I've got to do on this wheel arch is just try just put a bit of a underseal on there. So I'll do that in a bit. I'm just going to do the rest of the wheels. I'll do the back ones and the other side. They're very difficult for me to film in the garage. So I'll get those done and then we'll come back and I'll show you how I put the Waxoyl on. Well, I've now been all around the car and remarkably, the underseal is in really good condition. Have a look. So if we start with here, this is the rear. Get the light in there if I can. There we go. So you see the underseal is actually in kind of really good condition. There's a little bit of chipping and flaking there, so that'll need a little bit of work, but nothing really too bad at all. Maybe I'll just tidy that up a bit as well. Going around to the other side of the car, have a look under here. Yep, it all looks pretty good. No flaking off here, nothing there. Don't know whether this GoPro is going to be any good. Oh, there's a little bit of rust on there. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, a little bit flaking off there. I don't know if you can see. So I'll need a little bit of touching up. So I'm just coming around to the near side front. Here we go. And here, I don't think I can see anything. Oh. So that all looks completely clear. I say that there's a little chip just on the bottom there, so I'll just dob that in. So now it's time just to do those little bits and then get the Waxoyl out. Scrape a little bit with a screwdriver to get any of the loose stuff off. Not much there, is there? Just beginning to go. So I think we're doing this at about the right time. So we're now at the near side front, just a little bit to come off there. Not sure you can see it, but we'll give it a go. Put my goggles on. So now we come to the slightly messy job. It is stirring and applying this Waxoyl. That's part of the reason that I've kind of gone for Lanoguard for the main parts. But so what we'll do is we'll just open up the tin and ooh, it's horribly gloopy. A bit of old copper pipe to give it a stir, but it's not really stirrable, this. I'll give it a go. Got gloves on and everything. This stuff is horrible. But as you have seen, it's actually done a pretty good job. So I don't think it gets much less gloopy than that. So I've got a brush here. And I'll just try and get as much off the stir as I can. And what we'll do now is we'll go over and apply this to the car. So we're now ready to put some of this stuff on. Now you'll notice that I've masked up the areas because you do not want to get this on anything. So I put a little space there so it doesn't take much. Just paint that on. Make sure it goes all over the existing underseal. Got plenty on there, it doesn't do any harm. Have plenty on there. And there we go. A little bit more on so that we make sure that it's all nice and thick. Right. So that's that bit done. Just got to get the rest of the car done now. Well, that's the mucky Waxoyl all done. And actually, as I said before, I'm really quite pleased with how it's performed in the past, in the last couple of years. So I'm pretty confident that that's going to protect the wheel arches from stone chips and other nasties that you find on the road. It does need to dry for a good 12 hours or so, probably a bit longer. So I'm going to leave it for today and then start on the underside in the morning. So as the famous Ed China says, that's a job for another day. So now it's day 2. I've let the Waxoyl dry overnight and it looks like it's dried pretty well actually. So now I'm going to start tackling all that surface rust all over the suspension and underside. I'm going to start off around here, the offside suspension. I'm not going to worry too much about the brake disc because that'll soon burn off when I get driving it. It hasn't been driven for a week or two. I've got some of this rust control, rust remover by Nitromores. Not sure how good it is, but it was recommended online. But first of all, what I'm going to do is brush off all the loose stuff with a wire brush. Now it's quite difficult to see how much rust you're getting off, so I'm going to squirt a little bit of brake cleaner just to see how much rust is actually left on there. Still quite a lot, but it is only surface. So I'm just giving it a really good clean with a bit of brake cleaner, just so that it's getting all the residual dust and any little bits of grease that might still be on there. And then we're going to have a go with this rust remover to see how that gets on. Okay, so with this stuff, we'll just open it up. It says to put it into a separate container. So what I'm going to do is just pour a little bit into this Chinese food container. Seal that back up so it doesn't spill. Got a little brush and it's gel. It's kind of a transparent gel. So what we're going to do, I'll just make sure that camera is getting all of this. And what we'll do is we'll just dab it onto the surface rust. Just like that. Might have to grab my trusty light. See what's going on. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working this in. That's what they say to do. Keep working it in so it stays as a jelly. Perhaps we'll just put a little bit onto the anti-roll bar as well, just to see how that comes up. There we go. Now I'm not too worried about this. Just want to try and get the surface rust off because I am going to be putting that Lanoguard stuff on. So hopefully this should get rid of most of the surface rust, and then we can make it look a bit prettier with some Lanoguard. Now, if the packaging is to be believed, that's going to go grey. And the rust is going to dissolve off. So what I'm going to do is leave that for a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to go and start brushing around some of the other areas of the car. And then we can come back to this and see how well it's done. So while the nitromals is settling on the front, I thought I'd have a go at doing the rear. Now the rear's not too bad. The brake drum is a little bit rusty, but the leaf springs are remarkably good. So I'm just going to give them a bit of a scrub. I'll just pop my goggles on just in case. Flying debris, but they really aren't too bad at all. Incidentally, while we're under here, you can see I've got telescopic dampers on the bottom of the on the rear suspension. But as I say, that isn't going to take too much brushing just to get the loose rust off. Just do that side. I've had a bit of a go at this before, but it's really not going to take very much brushing, and then we can get some of that nitromals on. So I'm going to keep my goggles on here because I'm going to paint some of this nitromals on the suspension now. Definitely wearing my goggles because I'm going to get sprayed with some of this stuff possibly. But let's a little bit on the handbrake. So there we go. Okay, well it's quite a bit later now, and I've come back to see how we're getting on with the nitromals, and look at that. It looks like it's cleared it completely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to wipe it with more trusty glue roll and just see how well it's taken that surface rust off. It's not an instant thing, this. It takes a little bit of time, but I have to say That is pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive. I'm just going to see if I can move this camera in to show you in a bit more detail. You can see all that surface rust has gone. That's rather good. So what I'm going to do now is spray some brake cleaner on it and just make sure all the rust remover is off, and then go around and do the rest of the car. But certainly from the top side, it looks like it's done its job. So there we go, the finished job. I have to say, it took a bit longer than I expected, but it has worked really rather well. So now it's time to tackle the underside. Okay, so I'm now under the car doing the suspension main supports, the cross member and the sump. So I'm just going to scrub away and try and get as much of this loose rust off as possible. Got my goggles on because, as you can see from my face, it's a mucky old job, and you certainly don't want some of this stuff in your eye. Well, after a lot of scraping, I ended up exposing a lot of bare metal. Now, if you read the Lanoguard information, it says you can put the grease on it, but you can't really spray it because it's not thick enough. So I had a bit of Waxoyl left over, so I thought I'd belt and brace it. So I've actually had a good go at Waxoyling the whole area. I've redone the underside of the arches and also all the way underneath. And I've also done the suspension, so you can have a look at this. So that's looking pretty good, no rust there. And I've also Waxoyled all the way around. That's the same if I go and have a quick look at the back of the car. So you have a look here, all the suspension, there's no rust on that. I've gone through all the arches there. So that's all pretty good. And if we go and have a look underneath the car, so you can see here, I've actually repainted the sump. The sump was a little bit knackered, so I've sprayed that with some high temperature paint. I didn't want to use Waxoyl on that. You can see Waxoyl all over the front. Now, one thing I haven't done is sprayed into any of the cavities, so you can see these holes there. So my next task is to get the Lanoguard out, get the spray wand thing, injector thing in there, pop all that in, and probably give a coat of Lanoguard over the whole lot as well. And I reckon that should give me fantastic protection. So before I do the Lanoguarding, I've put a pair of gloves on. The stuff is non-toxic, but I'd probably rather not get it on my hands. And I'm also going to have some goggles because I don't really want it in my eyes. Now, before I start as well, I'm just going to take you through the package that I bought. It was a Black Friday deal. It starts with this stuff. This is the spray. I put it in this bucket of hot water because it's quite a cold day today, so they suggest that just to make it a bit softer, a bit more fluid. You also get this grease that you sort of push on the more exposed areas, if you like. There's this tube which attaches into the sprayer, and at the other end I've got two different sprayers in this little bucket here. One that attaches straight on so you can just spray like that, we'll see that in a minute. And the other, which is like a wand, and the idea with this is you can shove that into all the holes in the chassis and give it a good spray and get plenty of Lanoguard inside the chassis, because obviously a lot of these things rust from the inside out. So that's that. Now, what else have we got here? A lot of little goodies, if you like, some sort of cloth type arrangement. A sheep air freshener, how sweet. What else have we got? Yep, we've got a ice scraper, quite useful, and we've got a brush to help put the grease on, so I'll be probably using that later as well. And lastly, I'm not quite sure what it's got to do with Lanoguard, but a rather neat little tire gauge. So you just gauge it down to there. That goes into the tread and it tells you the depth of tyre. So that's all that's in my box. So let's have a go at getting the Lanoguard on. So we're under the car and we've got the goggles on. It's time to start spraying. So we'll shove that into the chassis and give it a good pump, and that's coming out like a good one. So plenty in there. Go right up to the end and give it a good squirt. Yeah, as it's coming out as well. Let's just see how that works. Oh, it's dripping out of another hole. That's good. So that means we've got as far as there. So let's just go, see if we can go the other way. Up that way, there we go. Something like that. Yes. Bit of a squirt there. It's nice because you can feel it. It's actually warm. So obviously warming it makes a massive difference. So that's good. Go a bit further along here. Is that a hole? Is that a hole? I think it is. Yes, it is. Right. You need something to poke the hole through with. Okay. So I think I spotted another hole there. Yes, I have. Just got a bit of wax oil over it. So what we'll do now is just grab the sprayer and that, shove it into that hole and see if we can work it along one way or the other. If not, just give it a good spray. There we go. It's not coming out there, so that's probably enough. What have we got on the other side? A little bit on there, maybe. Yep. Yep, that's coming out. That's good. What else have we got? Any holes that I can see in the chassis, I'm just working my way along. That looks like another one. Let's see if that one, oh, squeeze in there. There we go. That'll go in there nicely. Let's give that a good squeeze. Pumping away nicely. Plenty of that. Good old. Oh, there it is, pumping out. It's probably filled the whole hole with it. That's all right. Don't mind it dripping out. It's non-toxic. Let's see if there's anything else that I can see inside any of the chassis rails. So yeah, it's all looking pretty good under here. Just going to come back over here just to see if there's any holes that I can make use of under here. Oh yeah, there's one. It's just getting caught by the ramp, I think. Yeah. So, of course the exhaust's getting in the way as well. Let's move the light a bit. Put my hand in the bucket. That's not very clever. So, there we go. Let's get the light and have a bit of a better look. We've done that one. Actually, oh, there's another hole over there, but it's sort of obstructed by the ramp. But underneath here is all looking pretty good. Yeah, all looking pretty good. So, let's see if there's anything else. Found another bit of box section here. I think that's got a hole in it. Yes, it has. There we go. So just got to poke around a little bit to get into these spaces. Oh. Now, of course, one of the positives of the ramp is you can get right underneath. But one of the negatives, it's actually supported on the castle rails, so you can't actually get the wand in there. So what I'm going to have to do now, I think, is pop the car back on its wheels and then have a go at going into all those box sections. But before I do that, I'll just give the underside a quick spray with the normal Lanoguard sprayer just to give it a bit of protection. And I'll get it back on its wheels and just jack up just gently either side and do the other box sections. So the car's now off the ramp. I've got the wheels back on, obviously, and I've jacked it up on one side. I've got two solid axle stands underneath, so it's quite safe. So now I'm just going to finish off with the old spray thing and the Lanoguard underneath in the final bits of box section. There we go, see it all spraying out now. That's getting better. So let's go into that one now. Go up to there. Right, that's all dribbling out, so that's good. I'm gonna make sure there's plenty in there. So that's the sort of main box section. I've got to most of that. One more at the back, I think. Right, so that's one side done. Now it's just for the other side. So there you go, both sides done and a few little touch-ins of Waxoyl. So now just to leave it for 24 hours and hopefully that'll protect the car nicely during the winter. Now I am aware that I may have done it slightly differently with Waxoyl and Lanoguard, and there's lots of other treatments around. So if you've got any interesting stories or tips, let us know in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video and found it useful, it'd be great if you give it a like, give it a share and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps. As always, many thanks for watching and take care.